All right, this is the worksheet for positive and negative intervals of functions. So let me zoom out actually a little bit. All right, so the first one here, let me first start with highlighting my x-axis. That's the first thing we want to do here. So my x-axis is going to be right here. So a function is going to be positive when it's above this x-axis, and the function is going to be negative when it's below the x-axis. So the important part here that we want to start with is our x-intercepts, right? Because the x-intercepts are the points where we're going to cross that x-axis, where the x value, where the y value is 0. Okay, so I'm going to highlight my two x-intercepts here. So my x-intercepts here are 0, 0, right? This is the point 0, 0. So 0, oops, comma 0. Okay, and then over here we have the point 2, 0. Those are my two x-intercepts. Okay, 0, 0, and then 2, 0. Okay, I'm going to use the color, let's use blue for my positive. Okay, so when we start, we're going to read the graph left to right. So we're starting over here. And since this is going off the graph, really, there's an arrow here, which means this is going forever to the left and forever up. So we're really starting at negative infinity, okay, all the way to the left. As we go along the graph, left to right, we're positive, right, because we're above the x-axis. We're positive, positive, all the way up until we hit that x-intercept of 0, 0. So when we're writing our interval, we're using our x values. So we're going from negative infinity all the way to 0. Okay. And then our function becomes negative. So I'm going to use pink here for negative. So now we're negative. We're below the x-axis. We're below the x-axis all the way until we reach 2, 0. So we're negative all the way from 0 until 2. Right? And then we become positive again. After we get over 2, we become positive again. Right? And so we're above the x-axis this whole way here. So we're going to put union, right? Because we're going to add these two intervals. There's two positive intervals, this one and this one. So this one starts at 2, and it goes all the way to the right. So it goes all the way to positive infinity. Okay. The reason we use parentheses here instead of brackets is because when you're at the x-axis, when you're at the point 0, 0 and 2, 0, you're neither positive nor negative, right? 0 is neither positive nor negative. All right, let's look at some examples here. We'll look at just a couple. I'm not going to do the whole thing here. Let's look at number 4. All right. So on number 4, I need to identify my x-intercepts. Actually, number 4 is just like the one we said. Let's look at this one here. Okay. So let's look at number 3. So my x-intercepts here are going to be, again, the same as the first one, 0, 0, and 2, 0. Okay. So reading it left to right. Okay. So I'm starting at negative infinity underneath the x-axis. I'm starting all the way to the left. So I'm going to do in my negative interval, negative infinity. Okay. We're traveling right, but we're below the x-axis all the way until we hit 0. Okay. And then we become positive. And we're positive from after 0 all the way up until 2. So that's 0 to 2. And then we become negative again, all the way from 2 down to the right to infinity. So we're going to do U for union from 2 all the way until infinity. There's my positive and negative intervals there. All right, let's look at, let's try this one here. Okay, so my x-intercepts are negative 4, 0 and 2, 0. So we're at 2, 0 and negative 4, 0. Okay, we're going to start negative, right? We're below the x-axis when we start. So we start at negative infinity and we go all the way until -4. So this is negative, right? From negative infinity all the way to -4. And then we become positive, right? And we're positive. We're above the x-axis all the way from -4 all the way until 2. So we're positive from -4 until 2. And then we go negative again, right? We're negative then from 2 all the way to infinity, all the way to the right. All right. Let's do one more together, one where you have to use your calculator. Okay, so number 10, we have x squared minus x minus 2. So they don't give us a graph, so we're going to need to come up with our own graph. So you can use Desmos if you're at home, but I'm going to type in x squared minus x minus 2. And there's my graph. Okay. To get my x-intercepts, I have to do menu, analyze graph, and zeros, right? Zeros is the same as a synonym for x-intercepts. Your zeros are your x-intercepts. It's where the y value is 0. Okay, I click to the right, I drag, there's my first x-intercept. I have another one, so I got to do it again. Menu, analyze graph, 0, click to the right, drag, click to the left. There's my other x-intercept. Right? So when we do this, left to right, we're starting positive. So I'm going to do blue for positive. Right? So I'm positive all the way from negative infinity until I hit -1. And then I go negative. So I'm negative. My function's negative. The y values are negative all the way from -1 to 2. Okay, and then it goes back to positive. Right? From 2 all the way to the right, which is infinity. From 2 all the way to the right, which is infinity. Okay. And there, that would be our answers if we pull back up this one, right? Positive interval and our negative interval. Okay, and then we can sketch the graph there as well. So sometimes if they don't give you a graph, you need to draw your own. But that's the idea. Above the x-axis, that's where your function is positive. Below the x-axis, that's where your function is negative. And when you write your intervals, you're using the x values. What are the inputs that will give you a positive function? What are the inputs that'll give you a negative function?